Are we going?
And let's. Yeah, we're live. There you go.
All right. Oh, look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Modern Nerd. We are live for the first time going over here with GJC327. We got George. We got Smerchandise. Dan down there
Gang
being
science.
a weirdo, loving it, killing it. We got a fun episode. It's going to be light. We're just going to be talking about a bunch of things that are going on right now. We got the What If. We got Shang-Chi coming up. Dune. We got some trailers. We're going to talk about Marvel. We're just going to kind of get into it all. Topically, let's start with what's going to be coming up first. What if shit went down? What if it opens up the multiverse? And here's a fun little quote I want to start you guys off with. So there was in an interview with Comic Book Resources. Sorry, I'm reading my other screen if I'm not looking at you guys. Tom Hiddleston said that it sounds like a hilarious premise, but he also said that and then it sets up a bunch of stuff in the MCU which I know nothing about, implying that the What If show is canon, that these things are actual universes somewhere that just happened at the end of Loki. So that being said, we are in like 11 days, 10 days, whenever the heck I decide to post this onto the podcast. If you're watching live in about 11 days, going to get our first actual taste of something that comes out of the multiverse. Big implications for Marvel because it's opening up the doors. We got a whole lot coming at us, which is going to set up the movies, apparently. So let's open it up. What do you guys think? Have you seen the trailer?
Yeah, I have. It's exciting. I mean, what's not to be excited about? It's just literally, it's kind of how I feel about the upcoming, just how many opportunities they're going to have to just insert any characters they want. But this even opens the door further. What if these characters we've already met have just completely different interactions and introductions? What's not to be excited about? Just the idea, just first and foremost, Killmonger saving Tony Stark from his own bomb going off.
Yeah.
That the trailer could have been just that, and I'd be super stoked. I'm really excited to see what they do with this, and to just say you can literally do whatever you want. Like, God, talk about freedom as a writer to be able to just, what do I want to do? What am I cooking up today? How much fun did those writers have sitting around? Oh, right, literally saying like, all right, wait a minute, what if we did this?
What
if like Thanos and Tony Stark were like best buds? Just whatever. It's a fun thing to think about. Like
that would be ridiculous.
No Infinity War, just like beach day with the Avengers and Thanos. Like I like this kind of thing. I kind of wish this kind of thing happened in all forms of media, to be honest. I'm excited. We'll see what happens. And the fact that they got the actual actors to do the voices too.
Most of them. We don't have RDJ back.
Okay, that's okay. I'm sure there's some great impressionists out there, whoever is doing his voice.
Right.
Yeah, the animation style is different, and I kind of like it.
It's kind of cell shaded, kind of a little different. It's right. It's off. It's not quite what they did with Spider-Verse, but it's not quite not what they did with Spider-Verse.
It's definitely, whenever you do a new animation style, you take such a huge risk, I think, whether how well it's going to be received, and it looks cool. I do think it looks cooler when they're not moving, so the action scenes certainly will have a little bit of new flair to them, but doesn't matter. It's exciting. I'm excited, and it's fun to be excited as a Marvel fan again. I haven't had the opportunity to even be excited for a couple of years, maybe more. So that's exciting.
Yeah, George.
I think. Obviously I agree with everything that you guys said about like just mixing it up and having that like liberty and freedom to do that kind of thing. I think is probably really exciting for the studio themselves as well. Makes sense why it's animated. The stuff from what we're seeing from just like the teasers and the trailers, like those are, if we had to do real live action version of that, those would cost as much as like a regular Avengers film. Like, you know what I'm saying? They couldn't. Each episode seems like it's got big scenes like that would cost a lot of money, if not just to hire real people, but also just to do like CG for. It probably would be very costly. So I understand why they chose the animated route. It makes sense. They could still tell just as good a story, and you know, it's in many ways it's like, obviously it's not a comic book, but in many ways animation is that gap between live action movie and the comic book original source. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, in a way it's like a retro callback, but it's like, it's not. It's like, it's funny how like it comes full circle, right? Like now we're going like, remember when we used to watch Marvel cartoon shows on Saturdays?
Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and like X-Men, even going back as all the way to X-Men and things like that. This is like funny how it's like the studio, which for the longest time was just trying to get out of that realm of cartoon Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that, and into live action. And now that the live action's become success, it's like it's come full circle. We're back to animation again. It's like, it's funny how that like that's come around. I really appreciate them doing that, because it shows that in a way they like, we still remember those of us who were there to support Marvel and the studio when we couldn't get a live action film that was actually worth anything or was respectable. You know, it's like, I guess you could count Spider-Man and things like that, but it's like their own Marvel Cinematic Universe, like that was like a pipe dream for a while, you know, like you didn't think it would ever happen, and it did. So good for them. I'm glad they decided to go back to their roots, kind of. It's smart.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still getting over just Endgame in general. The final like scene of everyone assembling together, that's still like is kind of crazy that happened, as a fan of this genre personally.
Still gives me chills.
Right.
I love,
we saw that sort of thing happen in so many animated movies, like so many DC movies that really just didn't they just kind of followed a very similar formula, but they were all pretty solid.
They were.
And if you just follow like a kind of simple formula, like you can make something pretty good and not have to anyway.
Did you ever see what was the name? Did you ever see that picture of like a bunch of people from different casts of Marvel films together? They did like a group photo with Stan. It was like the 10th anniversary.
Yes.
Of Marvel Studio. Yes. And it's like, it's funny to look at that. It was like at a photo shoot, and they had like brunch or whatever. And they had all those people.
That was when they were all getting together, because they filmed Infinity War and Endgame real early, and they brought Stan on, and they brought
they had everyone.
They were doing the funeral scene, which was called the wedding scene. So they had everybody. So they're like, screw it, let's get this. And they took the one picture, but that picture came out, or they took the picture like 3 years before Endgame even existed, because they filmed it that early and then kind of had to like fill in the gaps when they were bringing the movies out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, just random people in there.
Yeah, and it's amazing that Tom Holland didn't spoil more than he did. So I want to break down a little bit. So from what I recall, and I'll probably just add in some pieces of the trailer here, I saw you got the first moment where it was Killmonger saving Tony, which I'm assuming you're gonna get Iron Killmonger, which is gonna be him in the suit, which is a suit, which is fucking cool as hell. So excited for that. But you see that sort of cinematic moment when they're panning around in the first Avengers movie, when they all get together and like the camera pans and you see Thor and Hulk and whatever, that dissolves into the Guardians. So we're probably going to get a what if the Guardians saved New York.
Thor was still in that circle, but
he may have been, but it might have been like the Asgardians of the galaxy.
It looks like this. It looks like the shows are like, it's one story. It's not like random. Do you know what I'm saying? It looks like there's a continual overall plot of all the episodes of like characters carrying on, and then cool. You know what it reminds me of? Have you guys ever seen that TV show in the 90s called Sliders?
Of course.
Where they like jump from different Earth to Earth. Like, it's gonna have like, you're gonna see a lot of different Earths, but I think it's gonna be Heroes Galaxy Marvel Universe hopping.
So did you?
And then there are gonna be like a group of them like assembled together, like time hopping. You know, kind of reminds me of what's called Heroes of Tomorrow on is that what it's called on
DC's Heroes
DC?
of Tomorrow.
Legends of
Yeah,
of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow. Yes, where they like time jump, and instead of time jumping, it's like random heroes from around different multiverses, portal hopping.
I hope you're right. I hope it is one large cohesive story.
And then we
I
get
don't
to
think
see
it
them
is.
played
but,
by
like,
the
they-
IRL
I don't-
actors.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Oh
the
my
case.
God.
But I hope you're right. I hope you're right. That would be wow. Oh man, damn it, George! Don't get me too excited, okay?
And
I'm
they
like the
come in
king of,
like
getting
you
my
know
hopes
at the
up.
culmination of whatever this Phase 4, Phase 5 ultimate showdown is. It's like, who the hell are these people? They're like, dude, those are the guys who've been like galaxy hopping, universe
As much
hopping.
as we do know what's going to happen, which I wish I knew less, there's still so much we don't know, and that's exciting. How often do we? I would like to go into a Marvel movie for once and just not have a clue as to what's going to happen or who's
Mhm.
going to show up. But that age is gone. It's like kayfabe and wrestling. It's just
I
dead.
think, I think we're gonna get that a lot more now. If they stop
Hope so.
putting spoilers in the fucking
Major
trailers,
spoilers.
we might
Huge
get that
character
more.
reveals.
Yeah, which pissed me off, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So, did you
Yeah.
guys ever read when you were younger? Obviously, because I know you guys don't read now. I don't think George, you read at all. But did you ever read any what ifs or stuff like that when you were younger?
Oh, you mean like comic books?
Yes,
I do read. I just don't read comic books.
Oh, you
Wow,
read
you're like,
comic
do you
books?
read? I'm like, what do you mean? Do I read?
No, you
Yes, of
read-
course
I know
I
you
read.
I know you don't mean.
I know how to
comic
read
books.
books. I'm like, I read books. I'm smart. I know things. I'm good
I
at
know
things. I'm not dumb like you. Everyone says I am.
George, have you ever looked at pictures before?
Have you heard of these things called words, and they
And
tend to be
letters,
on
no?
pages?
You can sound it out.
So when they first came out, they were all just one shots, and I'm sure everybody knows that now. So you would get these little what if one shots, and they were kind of fun. Some of them actually became something because I think, and if the internet finds this and I'm wrong, they're gonna be like, this guy's an idiot. But I think we first got
Well, regardless, you are one, but-
Frog Thor in a what if.
Well, we
Who
already
was in
saw
the
it.
jar?
Right,
We
but
talked
saw
about
him, right, and that's cool. But like, so it just shows that what happened in those comics sometimes bled into the mainstream stuff. So it wasn't just random. Oh, what if Uncle Ben didn't get murdered, but Peter still got bit by a spider? Like you get these things that like actually turned into like, oh look, this character existed, and now
I
they
will-
exist more.
I will say it's interesting because like and this goes back to the animation, had there not been Into the Multiverse with Spider-Man, like the animated, and had that movie not been successful,
Spider-Verse, please. Thank
Into
you.
the Spider-Verse,
Right.
like I don't know if they would have taken, I'm saying like it kind of primed the general audience of understanding the idea of like different universes within the Marvel realm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because we've seen at least a version of it, and you're like, oh well, it's an anime, but it's probably the best Spider-Man film they ever made. But that's a different story.
Agreed.
And
It's not even a different story. That is the story.
that is the story, right? But the thing is like that primed us audiences for the idea of like, okay, like we've seen it in a cartoon form of like different universes, different dimensions, and different. It's like I'm Spider-Pig. Like that's why when that guy came out and he was like, "What the hell is that?" It's like that's a Loki, and you're like, "What the? That's a crocodile." Like
willing
that's
to accept
why
that.
you were like, "I saw a Spider-Pig." So I mean, why not? Right? Like that made you. Why not? Why not a crocodile Loki? So like it's funny that it kind of goes back to that avenue, because if they didn't have that movie, who knows how primed the audience was. It's like now we're a little bit ready to see what they have to offer in many ways. And then it's funny how like that has probably translated to how they decide to put out the next Spider-Man film as well. Who knows, maybe we'll see an IRL Spider-Pig.
Maybe. So this kind of transitions.
Dan's like, Switch is like, please
we
no.
won't ever.
That-
but
Please,
I-
please no.
Just like
Spider-Verse
just
was
like a
amazing.
second.
It had about 2 or 3 too many Spider-Men.
Which,
In
whoa.
my opinion.
He's like, I could have taken out like 3 of them.
A show I watched called Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt the Titus was in a play called Too Many Spider-Men, and
Yeah.
I can't help but think of that. I kind of feel like we've been living the Too Many Spider-Men
Yeah.
like tale throughout time
Well,
anyway.
so then, I guess we can kind of dive into that. Like, what do you think? We've all heard the rumors, we've all heard what is true. And I was saying this earlier, I'm kind of angry at Alfred Molina because he 100% spoiled one of the greatest character comebacks in Marvel history, because he straight up said, "Oh yeah, I got to suit up as Doc Ock again for the next Spider-Man movie." Bro, did you not get the memo? Like, so like this would have been monumental. He was the only one that wasn't talked about. Like they talked about
Right.
literally everything
Right.
else. And then like the one villain that everybody agreed was the best villain of that entire series. And now, we know he's going to be there. So they spoiled the reveal, but he did. They've kind of kept and not they've officially kept it under wraps that these people are not showing up, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Nobody has confirmed. We have not officially seen set photos. We haven't heard, we basically know they're going to show up based on what we've heard. There's a possibility of Willem Dafoe coming into this for, which he was a good Norman. I hated his Green Goblin, but other than
not really his fault.
It's just the suit. Everything else, his mannerisms and his character was great as the
Franco?
Goblin. I just hate the thing. Well, you're never going to see James Franco again.
Right. Yeah, he too many allegations.
He's just
that's right.
Idiot.
That's right. Forgot about that.
Doing dumb things, and dumb things happen to you. So what do you think not only What If, but like Multiverse of Madness that comes out? I think it comes out before. No, that comes out after. But like, what do you think the implications are of What If and going into the Spider-Man movie?
George, you go first.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the What If is going to be. We said What If is going to be canon, right? So I feel like What If is going to probably tie in slightly with. I mean, everything is. It's amazing because everything is linked. From the way that Loki is linked, from the way that Scarlet, the implications of what Loki did because it's happening at the same time as Scarlet Witch's storyline. So like the implications of what that means for Scarlet Witch as well. So like everything is really nicely tied in that sense. So it looks like if the What If characters, if they don't show up immediately, it looks like that I really think we could see them later on down the line, IRL versions of them. And because if they decide to make that like all those stories canon, that this is like the story of what happened after Loki split the timeline, and all these branches are being created, and these are the stories that are happening in all the branches for the first time in forever, quote unquote, because now there's no one watching all the different branches, and we're just seeing all these stories. Hopefully they'll somehow show up later on down the line in one way or another, or one form or another, right? And I think Spider-Man, obviously it looks like I mean not a spoiler, but like we know that Scarlet Witch is going to be in Doctor Strange. I think that Spider-Man, if we don't see Spider-Man somehow dovetail into Doctor Strange's movie, it's going to be like a post-credit scene.
That's true, because we do have
we see like, oh, Spider-Man is like finally like cliffhanger, but it's like, oh my god, somebody like hears. I can almost imagine it's like Doctor Strange in his library or inner sanctum or whatever, guarding the sanctum, because the sanctum cannot be unguarded. Guarding the sanctum, reading his book, doing his study stuff, and then suddenly he hears like Spider-Man calling out, like in the distance, like just the way that like Scarlet Witch heard her kids, and it's like Doctor Strange is gonna save Spider-Man, and then it's like
Doctor Strange, the librarian of the MCU.
Sorry,
inner sanctum.
George is referencing how like. I was like,
it's unguarded.
Wong peace, dude. Wong, when they needed him most, he was like, all right, I'm just going to chill here. Whoop. And it's like, thanks for nothing, Wong.
He got invited to the wedding.
Guard the sanctum. It remains unguarded. I'm like, the sanctum's okay. Like,
no, it must be guarded, Dan. I don't know if you got that memo.
Yeah, Wong.
The sanctum remains unguarded.
Wong's making excuses again.
Sanctum.
And he's luckily he's going to get his just desserts for ditching the Avengers. Looks like in this upcoming movie. So justice, haha, that's what you get. Yeah, dude, he's the one. Wait, should I not tell him? Did you not?
Tell me.
Damn it.
Bring it. Talk to the world.
Well, okay, I don't want to. This is a funny position I'm in because you don't want to know more, but at the same
About
time,
what?
Wong. That was Wong fighting the Abomination at the end of.
It looks like him. Certainly does.
It is him.
It's Wong at the end?
Yeah. It's Wong fighting Abomination at the end of the Shang-Chi trailer.
It is somebody definitely we could tell that does.
No, it's like he's a big dude wearing robes of the of the mages. He didn't see him do anything, but you just see him get his butt kicked and slam into the side of the cage.
Okay.
I'm
looking it up. I'm
pulling
it up.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk. Okay, let's talk about Shang-Chi. We've mentioned it in like 2 or 3 podcasts. It literally was like Shang-Chi, and then we moved on.
The 10 rings.
Like this movie, it looks so good. I want to just say, I think we all agree they really. Hold on, George. I see you. You can put your hand down. You're next.
I need to go to the bathroom. I gotta pee.
They should not have. They ruined a bunch of it. They didn't ruin it, but they don't show us Abomination, a character we haven't seen since Edward Norton's Hulk. Like they showed us Fing Fang Foom, which I am super excited for. Like finally you get to see
unnecessary
Fing Fang
too. Literally like a 2-second like.
Yeah, don't show me that. Like it's just not worth it. I'm looking up this who's fighting Abomination. Oh shit, it is. Okay, so Wong is back. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news.
Oh man, since Tim acknowledged it, now it's officially true.
No, I mean it from everything I saw, he was in because he's wearing like the same type of garb that Shang-Chi wears in the comic books, and he actually wears in the movies, but I assumed it was just something that was like beaten down because the scene was just like and then it was over. So I didn't get a chance to really zoom in and freeze frame and be like, okay, he's a little bit bigger than the guy who's playing Shang-Chi, and okay, he's bald and he's Wong. Like I didn't get a chance to analyze it. So I'm gonna start us off again.
Beyonce
this movie looks
back.
fucking great. It's we were talking earlier, kung fu finally, some form of martial arts at least coming to the MCU. We're gonna get some great other I'm just mad that our last dose of this was from the bullshit fucking Netflix show of Iron Fist. Was the last like kung fu that we got, and it was just like, is this what is this? Is this kung fu? It's like he's looking at that butterfly. And we're like, no, it's not kung fu. So we get some good character. I'm excited for Awkwafina because she's amazing, and I want more of that at all times. So yeah, I never read the comics, so I don't have a whole lot of like history going into it. The one thing I'm not as happy about, I mean, I'm fine with it. It's not like a big deal, but like the 10 rings were rings on your fingers, and now they're like armbands, which is cool, and they become like weapons. But before they were kind of used like beams of stuff that would come out.
They were magic.
They were magic, but they all held a different magic that kind of came together to create the Mandarin, and that's how he became more powerful. So each one imbued him with a different power, kind of like Captain Planet, kind of concept. Each one did something different, whereas in this it kind of looks like just generic power rings, which I get. That's fine. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But I would have liked to have seen like the classic rings on the hands because it looks cool, but this one I guess is a little bit more visual.
It's better than getting debated by Sir Ben Kingsley.
Dude, they should bring him back for a cameo.
I liked what they did with Iron Man 3.
Well, it's just
because no, man, there's a bunch. I've read a lot, and I've seen.
Did you see?
Who are like, it's interesting how they did that, and like kind of threw everyone.
Did you see the short they did?
Yeah, I liked the short. I thought that was interesting because it introduced the Mandarin in that short.
They did. The real one.
The Mandarin is someone who is a king of. He's like Ra's al Ghul, where you assume that one person is the Mandarin, but it's not. It's the guy behind the curtain. So I thought that was kind of neat. Like that, I hated that it was, that they then focused on Killian. I think that was stupid. They should have just gone more into something else. But I liked what they did with Ben Kingsley. I think he was fun to watch. He was entertaining in the role, and it was good. Who's next? Who wants to go? Raise your hand, children. All right, Dan.
I mean,
you're chomping at the bit here. Go talk.
Not much to say. I'm excited for Shang-Chi. There's I mean, I am a huge Kung Fu fan. I'm a huge Marvel fan, and we, with their powers combined, we are awesome movie. I hope. I totally am getting way too excited, which is something I tend to do. Um, right, I didn't need the reveal of Fin Fang Foom. Didn't need the reveal of Abomination to get excited for this, but here we are. This is what the marketing team decides is best to lure people to the theater, even though I feel like they already got everyone hooked. But nevertheless, this is what they
When
decided to do.
I guess it makes sense when you talk about marketing because it is one of their lesser
True.
known characters. So they're like, give them what they want, and then you'll get the people who don't care to go care.
I'm hoping that this is a sign of it's been a while. We want to really get people back into the theaters and get excited for more movies, so they don't continue to do this. The reveals of characters that we don't know are there are some of the greatest moments in these Marvel movies as fans, and they deprived us of that with both of these reveals. That isn't to say there still is probably going to be a few more. There's post credit scenes. There's post credit scenes. There's post credit scenes. And I mean, just the overall, my brain explodes when I start thinking about the possibilities of just who can show up in these movies with the multiverse. It's like it's given them the tool to just be like, oh well, how about this person? Where they're from? Oh, alternate universe. Doesn't really matter, and that's okay. And with a loophole like that, it's like, God, who's gonna show up? Like any of these movies that are coming out over the course of the next phase, for the next however many phases, literally any character can show up except for, I guess, X-Men, which is kind of sad.
We're gonna get them
eventually, not in this phase, but it's excited. I mean, we gonna just hearing the word mutant uttered in the MCU the first time I hear it, hopefully will send chills down my spine. I remember what was the movie? I think it was Winter Soldier. Just hearing the name Stephen Strange from that Hydra agent was like, oh my God. Like
sit well.
Just these little things that happen.
Say it again. No.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, I feel like such a easy Marvel slut. Like that's all you have to do. And I'm like, I can't wait.
Somebody get Dan a towel.
Sit well.
Inappropriate.
It's fine. It's gonna be we're in for a ride. I'm down for new characters. I really want to see what they're gonna do, because obviously this has to lead up to some type of Avengers style team up eventually, and I don't know if it's gonna be the Avengers per se. Tim, I think, mentioned it might be the Young Avengers.
I mean, that might be separate, but
I don't know. It is gonna lead up to types of team ups, and I don't know if it's gonna be under the Avengers banner or if they're just gonna kind of do away with like having it had to be like maybe like it'll just be more like a Captain America Civil War type deal where people just show up in other people's movies. In any case, in case I haven't said it enough, those of you playing a drinking game at home, I'm excited. Yep.
George, are you too excited?
I'm like guardedly optimistic, if that's the right way. Like I'm gonna see it, like obviously I see it from a different lens, like coming from like my background. Like I've seen Kung Fu movies.
What?
Yeah, I've seen Kung Fu movies, and I've seen really good ones, and I've seen really bad ones, and I've seen ones done by Western studios that were good, and I've seen ones done by Western studios that were downright garbage. I've seen the gambit. It's a wide fucking gambit of like just wide range of different good and bad. So I'm like cautiously optimistic in the sense that like there's a pretty low bar for me. Like I'm not gonna come down harshly on it with like my own like biased criticism on it. So I have a pretty low bar as far as like expectations go. So, but it looks good enough that I think I would enjoy watching it. And like I said, actually, I agree 100% with Tim. I love Awkwafina. She's freaking amazing. So like for that alone, I'll go watch it because she's a really great actress. And I feel like she wouldn't just like, she's at a position now in her career where she's not just, she gets to pick the movies that she wants to do. Right. And it's like, she wasn't gonna. I don't feel like she would just be like picking this movie just to like do you know what I'm saying? I feel like she's getting to a position where she can like actually kind of dictate, and maybe she does like she gets a good payday and she does like a good enough job to like rescue this movie.
Is a pretty big point of exposure.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's both, but she's great, and she's gonna. I mean, as if Marvel movies haven't been liked,
it's also like
she's gonna bring a lot of that to the table.
I mean, I don't want to be I don't want to be like jaded and shady about it, but like it's like this is an obviously a big marketing ploy also for like
sure. That's okay.
For like Marvel to break, and that's totally fine if this is what it takes. You know, they realize they have like a huge Asian market and an Asian audience, especially in China. Like, they do what they got to do to make that money. Like, you know what I'm saying? And if they can manage to do that and tell a good story at the same time, then so be it. You know, I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with it. Right? I mean,
here's a fun little piece I was looking at. So I was looking it up a little bit more, getting information on like what's going into this movie, who's directing it, and the writers. So we've got, his name is Destin Daniel Cretton. I apologize if I said that wrong. I'm just reading it off the screen. He did the recent movie Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan. So you know,
that was a good movie.
He's got a writing credit on this movie as well, on Shang-Chi. So he seems to have a grasp for, you know, these more kind of, I don't even know how to put it, like movies dealing with, you know, what it's like to be, you know, of color, of a minority in America or in general. So he probably will have at least a good type of background to kind of not push that to the background, but to kind of represent it a little bit more. Again, coming from my point, I don't have that same point of view that George, you are obviously going to have. So, you know, I am always, you know, interested to see more of that and hear more about that, which is good, and glad that it's being represented. But so it's cool that he also wrote the movie. I didn't know that he was the director, also kind of wrote it. There are two other writing credits, Dave Callahan and Andrew Lanham. I don't know that they have, one of them helped write, you know, Wonder Woman 84, so don't get too excited apparently. And the other guy didn't really do much. He did help write Just Mercy as well. So, you know, we've got some pretty solid writers and directors behind this, so I think it's going to be good. But I think the one thing we need to remember is it is a Marvel movie first, you know, and a martial arts type movie second.
Yeah, that's what Marvel does. They do their own versions of different genre films. Every single film is supposed to be its own genre film. Like, that's the idea. And this is their take on a martial arts film, which is totally fine. And they brought in, like, they brought in Hong Kong, like, acting legends to come in. People who've done martial arts before. Those the two parents are, like, some of the credits for Michelle Yeoh is, like, as long as my arm, you know, like it's like she's been acting for like the better part of my lifetime, you know, like probably longer. So I've been watching her since I was a child, like tiny little kid. So she's obviously has that credit in her background, and she's not just you know, you could say she's a great martial arts artist like in those films, and that's what she's probably known for, but she's also just a good actress in general, like after all these years of, you know. So they definitely swung for the fences when it came to who they wanted to cast, and it's you know, it's a great job in the casting team in the sense that they probably worked with the marketing team and being like, well, like if we want this to be our big like Asian box office draw, like the first Asian Marvel film, we need to like pull in familiar faces on top of this as well. So they were like, who could, like, they probably were like, pull up a list, like who is like number one, and I think she would probably be, Michelle Yeoh is like probably number one on that list. Like they probably that was a dream cast for them. I don't think they probably had that many people who were like, who can we play to fill that role? Because when you think of Hollywood, someone who speaks English, who's like an established Hong Kong actor and with that kind of martial arts background, she's like the first one you think of pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. She's fantastic. I actually just saw her in Gunpowder Milkshake. It was her, Angela Bassett, and Karen Gillan. And the movie was okay.
All you had to
That's
say was it's a new Netflix exclusive, which
yeah.
you can describe every new Netflix exclusive that's come out in the last year as it was okay.
Yeah, it was weird because you've got I was in it for Karen Gillan. Oh, and it had Lena Headey.
Oh,
Lena
okay.
Headey. And yeah, she played Karen Gillan's mom, and she was excellent. Everybody's excellent. Karen was the one off part for me. There was a fight scene in a bowling alley, and like it was filmed real weird and looked real bad. I don't get it. But they're obviously they're trying to play off of the whole her like put her into an action role off of the Jesus, what's her name in the movies, Avengers? For fuck's sake, why do I not? What is wrong with me?
What are you talking about?
The one that goes lick
Karen
down.
Gillan.
The blue face lady.
Jesus.
Yes. Nebula.
Nebula. Thank you for fuck's
Nebula.
sake.
She goes lick that, lick that.
Like, her her physicality as Nebula and bringing it into a more kind of modern role, and she was fine at moments. I'm not saying go watch this movie. I'm not going to sit here and push it, but you had Michelle Yeoh, who had like 8 minutes, 10 minutes of screen time, maybe a little bit more. She was excellent. Like she was real good in the scenes that she was in. The action parts that she did was only like 1 or 2, and it was the best action in the movie because obviously she's the most experienced. I mean, Angela Bassett isn't really known for like action scenes. Lena Headey has been in a bunch of action type roles, so she was in Sarah Connor Chronicles, so she did a lot of action in that.
That is Angela Bassett in Black Panther, though, right?
Yeah, same woman. So it was interesting to see this.
I wonder if we'll see her. I wonder if we'll see her get down in the second one. Who knows?
I don't know. People would argue that shooting scenes as Tina Turner are in a way action scenes because she is she's nonstop and she did a great job as her.
That's true. Yeah. So we're gonna push on, and so after What If, we've got Shang-Chi, and then we've got 2 things coming out in November, which are both. One of them is also the other big question mark of this release schedule is the Eternals. I never really read much of this, and you only heard a little bit about them. I think in Guardians, did they talk about Eternals, or were those what do they call those giant people? They weren't Eternals.
Celestials.
So, but like these people have this ability. They're like they've seen everything, like the Watcher. But they're not, you know what I mean? They all have powers, and they obviously in the trailer have like come down to earth at some point, and they were revered as gods in the olden days and everything. You've got a cast of casts. I mean, you've got Rob Stark, I don't remember his name. You've got Kit Harington, who's going to be in it as I think like Black Star or someone like that.
He hasn't been in any of the trailers yet, which is interesting.
He was in the trailer. It was it was like a shot of him, and that was it. You've got Kumail Nanjiani, who was the headline of this press junket for like this movie. He's been the headline of the movie since he got just jacked ripped. But
I love him. I'm so happy for him. I think he's so funny and likable. I'm kind of glad.
Did you see his movie that he did about his life and
no, I keep reading The Big Sick.
Dude,
right?
The Big Sick. It is
I don't know why I haven't seen it.
I cried my ass off, dude. It was fantastic.
I mean, it's a true story about him and his real life girlfriend. Yeah.
So amazing. He's got the chops of not just being, this comedic actor that everybody knows him for because he was a stand-up comedian and everything, and it's amazing, but like he can do it. So I'm very excited for it. And then you've got Angelina Jolie, Selma Hayek. Like what? Like you're just it just keeps going up,
George. I have to make the point of like I feel like the thing with this movie is what we go back to talking about trailers, right? And what your own personal preference of trailers is, right? Yeah. So some people would say they like a trailer where it doesn't reveal too much, or like you have to find the perfect balance of like enough to tease people, but not enough to like spoil major things as well, right? And that's the hard balance. And this, unfortunately, for this trailer, it is like incredibly underwhelming. Because it's like you're trying to introduce something new, and we really, literally, there was no hook. It was like the most boring trailer I've seen Marvel put out in a long, long time. You're like,
it hooked me because I am the type.
The hook
who
was the
wants-
people in the cast, right? But like
Right.
Yeah,
after
that's-
watching
that's
that
right.
movie, like, do you really feel like you like after watching that trailer? I mean, do you really feel like it like you're like 100% sold on it, or like I don't know? It just
100% sold, and I'm gonna go see the movie are two very different things because
yeah, but not
I'm
like
gonna go see the movie.
Yeah, we're gonna go see the movie because it's a Marvel film and all that. But it's just like it was a very underwhelming trailer. Like I just
It
didn't
was a
see
slow
enough to
trailer.
like get me excited.
It was a teaser. It wasn't a trailer. It was a teaser, and I like teasers. Everybody knows. Like, I guess that's not true because I will deep dive in some stuff. We're gonna get.
Oh
into
no,
in
that
minute
feels
with
like
the
it was a
Flash movie,
trailer.
but, like,
It was a pretty long trailer, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it didn't tell you anything. There was no plot given to you in this movie.
Wasn't that a Super Bowl trailer?
Was it? Yeah, I guess it was. Oh yeah, it was. That's
Didn't
weird.
they
Has
show it
really
during the
been-
Super Bowl, dude?
Has it been out
Like,
for 4 months? 5?
that trailer's been out for a long time, I feel. I don't know. Well, whatever. It's a pretty big trailer. Like, I feel like it's their trailer. I don't know if it's like a teaser, really. But whatever. Regardless of what you want to say, it's like, I don't know. It seems really underwhelming.
I mean, the movie might be good though. Still, I'm most curious about it, and I think a lot of people are the most curious about it because they don't know anything about these characters.
Bold
So
prediction.
They're like, I never heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it
Bold
became
prediction.
their top group outside of the Avengers. Like,
Bold prediction, the worst movie they come out with this year out of the 3.
ooh, that is a bold statement. I mean, they've got more than 3 movies coming out. They got Shang-Chi, they got Eternals. I guess Spider-Man doesn't. Oh, that is it. And Spider-Man, I guess, technically doesn't count because that's Sony. And
I'll even throw Spider-Man in there. Out of all the ones that come out this year, that come out in the foreseeable future, including Black Widow that just came out, it's going to be the worst one.
Personally, the Spider-Man movies haven't blown me away.
Okay, I'm going to say on this also. I feel like the thing is like with the casting, don't get me wrong, it's such a great, incredible casting, and it's like got like a stellar cast and stuff like that. But it's like a big part of me is like, I've seen ensemble casts with like huge names before, and I've seen them mess it up because of like the fact that like no one can feel like they can like take the lead, you know? And it's like whoever does take the lead, maybe there's somebody who's like not sure about it or whatever. And it just seems like, what exactly are you trying to like hide with the story by creating such like putting such shiny pieces in front of us first? In a certain, do you know what I'm saying? I know that sounds crazy to say. You're like, oh, if it's a great script, it should get great actors, blah, blah, blah. But just in general, with the way that they've done movies, like, it's not like they needed to ever, like, shoot that high for it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
they've never
I don't know.
really
It just
cast
seems
big names before. Robert Downey Jr.
they
was
don't
the
need to
biggest name
cast. They could cast 1 or 2 big names, right? Which is totally fine, and they have before. You know, even if you have to say Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow, like in the original, right, the 2 biggest names, and that makes sense. But it's like, and then the rest are less well-known people, you know, who eventually become well-known, you know, because of their time in the Marvel Cinematic. Even Scarlett Johansson, we know she wasn't the first choice. It was Emily Blunt. We all know that. Like,
Yeah.
so my point is like they chose somebody, they chose this movie, and it felt like it was like, for me, I'm skeptical because it seems like it's a massive overcompensation to something that's wrong inherently with the film.
Maybe.
Now,
That they had
interesting.
they had a like maybe a terrible, like not so good of a script, and they just like they're like, okay, well, we at least need to get like the biggest people we can like throw money at to do this, because like we have no idea if like they'll make money unless we do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like I'm very like skeptical of this movie because of
Remember, but
seeing this.
you're still in like pre-phase 2 mindset. I feel like we are now in the world of well-established Marvel movies where they're all pretty good. I mean, Black Widow is has too many asterisks to like really delve into, which we already did. But like everything before that, I mean, what was the last real weak Marvel movie you saw?
I mean, for you, it's going to be Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
I liked Captain Marvel, to be
I
honest.
actually
too.
liked Captain Marvel. I just have problems. I mean, I had
Yeah,
issues
yeah.
with Brie Larson.
Well,
I think Captain Marvel was still a pretty great movie.
Ant-Man and
if
the
I-
Wasp.
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was really good.
Yeah,
I like Ant-Man and the Wasp too.
These are the weaker.
I'll
of
have to go
all the
back to
movies.
like maybe
They're all
Thor
really
2,
good.
probably Dark World,
Thor 2 would probably be it, and still
Dark World,
Thor 2,
Ultron, maybe.
not that bad. Ultron,
pretty
yeah.
bad. Thor 2
Ultron,
is pretty bad.
Thor 2 was, but
that's
it
phase
still
2.
was like it still was like pretty okay, and that was a while ago. Like what, Age of Ultron, and even that was still pretty good, pretty damn.
Iron
good.
Man 3. There you go.
Iron Man 3. Okay, fine. But
I'm the
there's
only one that liked
that
that.
still had like redeeming qualities
with,
about it.
and I like just knowing the way actors are and like the way contracts are negotiated with actors and stuff like that. There's obviously going to be like this question of like, well, we paid all this money to Angelina Jolie, and you're telling me she's not even on screen for more than like 20 minutes. Like somebody in the county department is going to be like, this is fucked up, we're paying her like millions and she's only in this film for 20 minutes. Like you need to get her more screen time because like we got to make this money count. And then someone's like, well, Selma Hayek is asking for like this amount and like we only got her for 15 minutes out of this 90-minute film. Like, you know, like all these people trying, all these big names trying to, and an ensemble cast trying to do it within like a 3-hour period is incredibly difficult. And then now let's bring in freaking Rob Stark and freaking Jon Snow too. Well, it's like it's so difficult with such a large ensemble cast to tell a good story. And this is not even like Guardians of the Galaxy where there's actually a handful. This is like there's like 6 or 7 people who are all trying to get some screen time in on that.
What I was gonna say, what I was trying to say before, I was saying all that to say that I've like Tim has reminded me that rumors are rumors and you got to remember that, but I just have seen in so many places from so many different random sources that like for the past half year or so that like Eternals apparently is some next level stuff, like in terms of just like action and things we haven't seen before. And rumors are rumors and doesn't mean anything until you show up, but just hearing that so many different times from so many different people, I mean, I'm not that hyped for Eternals either. Like, it's a hard thing to do an ensemble cast, but they've pulled it off before. I don't think they're going to do it with shining colors like they did Guardians, but I think it's still going to be, at the very least, pretty good and probably see some kind of, you know, crazy powers and action that we haven't like seen before. And that might be enough to elevate it to a level where we will really enjoy it.
I'm very skeptical of this also because Eternals reminds me a lot of the, what's it called? The Inhumans. And if like, you know you know how they destroyed that series.
Yeah.
So but the storylines are very similar in many ways. That was network television, I know, but it's like
destroy everything.
Listen to me though. Listen to me. When they had the Inhumans, like when they had the Inhumans and the idea to do the Inhumans, I don't know if you remember, it was years ago when they, you know how they did like a Marvel showing like every single year they show you like movies and upcoming projects or whatever, a close up or an exclusive. Inhumans was originally supposed to be a film. Like,
yeah, that's true.
It was originally supposed to be a film, all right? And like somehow through like the later stages of planning and stuff like that, they realized they didn't want to make it into a film. So they were like, okay, well, we did all this work into it, so let's cut it down and still tell the story. And so they chose to make it a TV show because it wasn't going to fit into the slate of like scheduling that of major movies that they were brought in. They were scared to bring in an ensemble cast like what they had for Inhumans onto the big screen. Now the question is like in the now it's been like 7 or 8 years since that happened. Did they learn their lesson? Did they what did they learn from it? And are they ready to do that kind of thing now? Because I hate to say it, those two storylines incredibly freaking similar. Instead of living like amongst the humans, then humans lived on the moon. Like, spoiler alert, that's the story. But they've been watching Earth this whole time, not interfering while all this crazy shit is going down.
Right.
I've heard this story before.
Or the Eternals?
Both. One is on the moon, one is on Earth with living among us. Like, it's like I've seen this story before. You already effed it up one time. You chose not to bring this story, similar story, onto the big screen with a large ensemble cast before because you knew something was wrong, and we knew when we watched the show we could tell something was wrong. So hopefully you learned some lessons, and hopefully that's like, but like. You have to understand that this is not something you've pitched to like the larger general audience that we haven't seen before. We've seen this before. Like, and talk about like the question of like how low and high of a bar are you going to set for Marvel? Is that like they're a product of their own, like, you know, they're essentially a victim of their own product. Is the fact that they've set the bar relatively high in the sense that you're like you're like, if you want us to consider you like as a legit like studio compared to like and worthy of quote unquote like those other larger studios that are always getting Oscars and things like that, then like you also need to do your end of it. Like, yeah, we'll go to the box office, we'll always support Marvel. Like, that's not a question. Between the three of us, I'm pretty sure we can say that hands down. We're always probably going to support Marvel. But it's like, don't take that for granted and like keep feeding us the same formulaic shit that we've already seen. Like,
so, but here's the thing that everybody needs to remember, that these are all originally comic books, and the very nature of comics is that they've been around forever and that they do recycle everything.
Of course.
And it's gonna come back, you know. And Dan, you were mentioning it during the Widow, I think, is you don't want to see everything kind of go and like come back in a loop and tell us the same stories and redo everything. But the very nature of this longevity of stories, now granted we're not anywhere near it, is they're going to come back around. Like, everything will, because they're pulling from the source material. And if they stick with like the core characters, or at least some of the ones that are more popular, they're gonna repeat a bunch of stuff. They're gonna run out of like fundamental like plot lines where you're gonna get some, you know, you can get some good sideline stories that I really liked, you know, back in the day, but I mean, they're not going to be what is going to translate to, you know, cinematic masterpieces and Marvel movies. So yeah, we're gonna get some of that repeats and stuff like that. But as we were saying about Shang-Chi, this is going to be the Marvel Universe take on it. And I'm not accounting Inhumans. That was a big flop. I don't even know who was show running that, and it was just a disaster. So that being said, I want to switch away from Marvel. I know it's a sin for a little bit, but this is going to very slowly become just, hey, let's all talk about Marvel for 6 hours. The next big thing that kind of is dropping soon, I think November, December, I don't remember exactly when it's coming out. I don't have it in front of me, but it's going to be Dune. Dune is the next big sci-fi kind of action movie. Now, I never read the books or book. I don't even know if it's one or more or series.
There's more.
I think so. Our old boss, shout out to Enoch, was huge into the Dune series. I would always walk back when he was doing like paperwork. He would play it on his. He would be listening to it as an audiobook, and I'd walk in and be like, this is interesting. What are you listening to? He's like, Dune. I'm like, oh, I know that. I've heard these words. And so, you know, I don't know a ton about it, but I saw the trailer. And okay, before I give my impression, it's the order in which they put the scenes with Jason Momoa is like a reverse aging. They Benjamin Buttoned him. If you really look at the moments that he's in there, the first time you see him, he's got this big scruffy beard and he looks nice and like weathered and like Jason Momoa. And then the next scene that you see him in the trailer, he's got just the goatee about the length of mine. Like, it's not a whole lot of beard. And then the final moment you see him, he has a clean shaven face and looks like a child. And it's just kind of, I watched it earlier and I just was like, why is this what I'm pulling from this trailer? Like, all of these epic scenes and cinematography and shit that's happening in the background, all I'm noticing is this baby face Jason Momoa.
I know why. Because whether you're a man or woman or whatever, we're on a level, we're all attracted to Jason Momoa in one way or
down.
another.
He is
Thank you, Stargate Atlantis. Thank you, Stargate Atlantis.
Right? We got him before he was super popular, and then when he became popular, I didn't realize it was the same person, which I
because he like is twice the size he was on Atlantis. He built up muscle like The Rock.
I'm gonna say this. I think his portrayal, I think Khal Drogo is an overrated character. Everybody is like, oh my god, Khal Drogo, it was such a like defining role for him. It was like he got to really, and I'm like, he was in like 8 episodes.
One season. Yeah, he was in one season.
Like, it wasn't that impactful of a role. If you really watch it, like, you remember it because he's a big burly dude, and like, yeah, he looked, it just looked a little weird with the heavy on the.
Well, here's your question: is do you feel like he's as impactful? He's certainly not as impactful as like a Ned Stark, because Ned's like the main character,
right? But like, he had more character to him for, you know. But
you're not there.
I mean, I love him as Aquaman, love him, and he's done a bunch of TV shows, and I'm excited. I want to see him. I never watched.
It's a really good cast, and that's here we go again. It's like a really great cast. They swung for the fences.
Dune is an epic, and
they cut it one book into 2 movies. So this is only half of the book. Yeah, it's technically supposed to be 2 movies. So they obviously have not done the second movie yet, but the plan, the way they shot is that this is only half of the first book.
So let me ask everybody this. Call me ignorant. Why is everybody on Timothée Chalamet's dick? Like, what did he do that is so... Everyone's like, oh my God, Timothée Chalamet. And I'm like,
they really like him.
Who this person is. Like,
he's in that Netflix film with Robert Pattinson called The King, I think.
Yeah, that movie looked terrible. Was it a movie or a show?
It was like a Netflix special.
I'm thinking of something different.
Either way, people really like him. I don't know.
He's good. Amazing. So
he's not bad. I mean, he
looks like he's 12, but whatever.
He doesn't seem like he's going to be bad in it.
So get a little bit more gritty in there. I never watched Euphoria, but I hear it was real good.
It's a good show.
The movie looks great. I'm excited. I'm gonna go see it just because I know nothing about it. Let's get Dan. What's your impression? What do you? I mean, anything.
No comments. I don't. I know nothing about this. It could be good. It could also stink. So I don't. It's hard. These kinds of trailers and these kinds of movies feel like I've been
certainly more exciting than Eternals trailer.
Oh my God.
Maybe. I don't know. It's there's. I think this is just as ominous and gives you just as much as the Eternals trailer. To be honest, we don't really know what's happening. We know he's having dreams about Zendaya, which we've all had at some point. So it's like whatever. Cool. Like it doesn't really matter. Like I'm not. It's the trailer is epic looking. That's not much to go on. I mean, if I were a gambling man, I'd bet on Inhumans over this like tenfold, just because I know that Marvel movies have been delivering and probably will continue to do so. Dune, maybe it's okay. It doesn't really.
It has a lot. I will say it has a lot of people's expectations. Like people have been waiting for this movie for a very long time.
A good friend of mine named Brian has been waiting for this movie.
Yeah, yours truly.
Most of his adult life.
Yeah, same here.
So
since I was a teenager.
Right. It's gonna be. I'm excited for them. It's kind of actually a little good thing to hear that they're splitting the first one into 2 movies.
Yeah.
I think that's important, especially I hear.
Well,
the book, right?
You have to really understand the way that Dune was written and like the series was written is that like Dune originally was written in science fiction magazine, like a monthly subscription. So it was actually originally broken up anyways. So
but it's long,
it wasn't until later that it was put into one book. But it was meant to be like a serial science fiction story that was put out on a regular basis. I don't remember if it was monthly or whatever. So in many ways, the book itself is already cut off in the way that it can easily fit into however many types of episodes you want. So the 2001 film that they did, I think, was in 2001. They did a miniseries on Sci-Fi Channel. They split up the first book into three 2-hour parts. So it was like a mini series, right? So it's how you want to split up Dune is very flexible in that sense. They got lucky with that. But the source material is Frank Herbert is considered probably one of the founding fathers of modern science fiction. He is heavily referenced in so many different types of science fiction. He's one of the first people who wrote science fiction to the point where it's he really did a good job of describing topography, which is what Dune is all about. It's many people could say it's undertone of Dune is very Avatar, save the world type of but weather is a big part of the movie, as you can tell, because they're in the desert and things like water are valuable in the desert. Sure. Which is something that Frank Herbert years ago saw as an issue that was going to be later on down, not in his lifetime, but obviously later on down the line, humans were going to have that issue as well. So a lot of, science fiction talks about problems, modern problems and future problems and social problems that can come up, but they mask it in the way that science fiction is. And Dune is one of the first series, I think, that did at least modern science fiction, that did a very good job of addressing things that are seen. Even like the relationship that goes on also with like the natives and the people who are colonizing that planet to use its resources, goes back to stories of like colonial times to even today of exploitation of third world countries as we buying their resources, right? Like it's like the haves and the have-nots. It's all those themes carry over, and it's like it's funny how many people today, if you ask, who are like big in the science fiction, big names, everyone from Lucas to Spielberg to all these people, they all read Dune. All of them read Dune. There's no question. James Cameron, he read Dune. They all read Dune. Stephen Colbert, he read Dune. Like,
oh yeah.
Everybody read it. Like, if you know anything about science fiction and you're a science fiction and you're involved in the science fiction genre and you create things for science fiction as far as film, television, whatever it is, you've probably read Dune, because that's how important of a like source material it is. Like, people will like, you'll be like, what? Like, you've never seen Dune? Like, you've never watched it? You've never
because
read it? Like,
they have Denis Villeneuve doing the movie as the director, and
he's supposed to be amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at his list here, and I liked a bunch of his movies. I'm not going to say, that they're on my absolute favorite list. He did Prisoners back in the day. He did Sicario, which was supposed to be pretty damn good. He did Arrival, which, I mean, I enjoyed Arrival, but
Arrival was good.
It was slow. It was a very slow movie for me. It was good. I'm not saying slow is bad.
That was the kind of movie that needed to be slow.
But then
it worked for me.
He's supposed to be like a perfectionist.
But he got to work on. He directed Blade Runner 2049. So again, also one of the more, not that one,
that's
but
a good sign.
But Philip K. Dick. He took one of the other more prolific sci-fi writers and got to play with his toys, and now he's playing with Frank Herbert's toys. So obviously this guy loves
he's known
sci-fi.
For creating very like he believes in practical sets. He doesn't want to do like he like, for him, he's like the audience these days today, and most of us are pretty well trained to be able to tell when something is added on post, right? Like, and he's like, he doesn't like that. He feels like it's a very jarring scene. So like, his belief is like, as much as we could practically build out, we're gonna do. So all those things that you see in the trailers, the desert, like, he's like, I actually want to go to the desert. We're not going to shoot this in a black lot full of sand. Like, he's like, we're going to go to the desert, like, to shoot this, because that's the only way you're going to get real shots of the desert, is to like go to the desert and shoot it. Like, we're not going to go to some set. And he's like, what do we want to do for this like spaceship or this castle or this like fort that we're building? Let's make as much of it as we practically can. That's why this film is expensive. It's not because there's a bunch of posts like a lot of CG and like Marvel films and things like that. It's because he was like, I want to spend money on building real sets.
Yeah.
So like, the problem is like, this film is on such a high like budget that if it doesn't at least somehow make like a decent profit, like, they're not going to make the second one. Are you kidding me?
Well, they're making apparently a TV series called Dune: The Sisterhood.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if it really has anything.
He's directing one episode of it. I don't know how much it ties in. It's just,
I don't know about the tie-in.
But here's my question. I guess this kind of can go to both Eternals and probably speaks to George's point on Eternals. But like, how much cinematography and practical effects, visual effects, fight scenes, action scenes, how much do those make a movie? How good can a movie be if the plot sucks? Like, some people would say like Blade Runner 2049, I think it was a visually beautiful film. Movie. Cinematography was amazing. Like, lots of these long,
the shots were beautiful
shots. Yeah. The movie was slow.
Even the indoor stuff, like, the dialogue, the storyline was like, But
like, how much do you need? Like, can you run Dune on just the shots, or do you need those performances? Do you need like the plot and the story and the script to be done really well? Like, I'm not taking anything away from cinematography. I look for those things when I think
my fear is My fear is also the same problem with the Eternals, is that like because Dune is such a quintessential story and it's one that's been used and through the generations. Like you understand, like the reason why people have been waiting for Dune for so long is like people see it as like source material for all modern science fiction. And the fact that it's not been done justice in the past to the point where like people have seen them like give the material the credit that like a lot of people feel like it deserves is like still a very sore subject among science fiction fans, especially science fiction fans of Dune. So
it's so hard
people will say we'll always try to compare Dune to like other more successful franchises like Star Wars and things like that and Star Trek and whatever it is. So, but what they don't realize for a lot of people and like what people are upset is the fact that they're like, dude, if it wasn't for Dune, there probably wouldn't be so many of the things that you've seen in Star Wars and in Star Trek. Right.
Very,
so
very right.
like the problem is like the storylines that are in Dune and like the world building and all those things, you've seen them kind of play out in a lot of different science fiction movies purely because they all kind of copied this original source. And like now that people have already seen it, something kind of like this with such an expansive cast and expansive world building, like before in other genres and also in film and other TV shows or whatever you want to call it, in other franchises, like Dune is going to struggle to show us something new that like we haven't seen before in science fiction. Unfortunately, you can have the best source material in the world, and it could be even a decent story. But if it's a story that we've already seen before, you're going to have a hard time like impressing. I hate to say it. It's
you do it well.
That's the trap.
You watch the same old story all over again.
Right.
Yeah, it's the trap that they're in, right? Like they have
been using the same formula for 10 years, you know. It's like, oh my god, big fight, skybeam at the end, you know. Like, I mean,
I think they're done with that finally, thankfully.
Hopefully. Okay, we could go on, but we're gonna move on. So we're gonna go into something that I think Dan knows more about than any of us. We're gonna go Witcher season 2, excuse me. I mean, you don't know as much about the show coming up, but I mean, obviously you're not an insider, but you've played the games, you know more about that shit than
I'm an insider. I know Henry Cavill personally.
I tried to play Witcher 2.
Whatever.
It was rough because it was a while ago, and anyway, whatever. Witcher 3 is one of the greatest games of all time, and that's exciting.
How excited are we for Witcher season 2? I mean, I think season 1 was fantastic. Did you watch the new trailer? The
yes,
teaser?
I did.
It is officially a teaser.
It's Witcher. It's an interesting thing. That first episode came in with a bang, with maybe one of the greatest fight sequences in movie or television history. One of the most well choreographed, well shot. Me and Tim were talking earlier today about like the importance of, especially more on Tim's case, like the importance of just like less cuts and more, and letting the talented stuntmen and coordinators let their choreography show. And man, did they use that and use its strengths and use it well. That was such a cool scene. And then you were intrigued. There was some we're kind of figuring things out as we go. They don't tell you when they time jump. That was that first season takes place in 3 separate time periods, and there are people who do not age. You don't know what timeline you're in, or not timeline, what time period. And it ended those last few episodes. If I had to go off those, I would say I'm not too excited. But as we are all aware, these kinds of things, there's setup. There's always, with shows especially, there's setup for future seasons. This battle that took place, which should have been like a great kind of season finale, something didn't hit quite right for me, at least. It felt disjointed, and you could tell it was all happening for a reason. It's a battle kind of, I mean, much like, is what Geralt would come to be known as the Butcher of Blaviken because of that first fight scene. We will be revisiting or talking in the show about that last battle scene in the end of the first season for the rest of the series. Still didn't quite land. I'm excited regardless because Henry Cavill's portrayal is spot on. And he did a, I mean, he's a gamer, and he's like the coolest fucking nerd, on the planet. And
He
he
built the PC,
decided
dude.
to,
If he could do it,
he,
I could do it.
yeah, he built a PC, man. He decided to go, like, basically do an impression of the Geralt of Rivia in the games, which this show isn't. It's based off the books, not the games. Still decided to go that route. I could not be more pleased. He's
Yeah.
doing a bang up job.
Yeah.
I
This
think a
is
lot
like
of
his best
people,
role.
probably. I think a lot of people are a little annoyed by that, maybe the book purists, but I think it's great. I think Geralt of Rivia as a character is meant to be not super charismatic, and kind of a no nonsense kind of. He's over 100, and he wants to get things done. A lot of grunts, and that's
Works.
that's good. It works,
He's a
and he's
grumpy
good
old
at
man,
it.
dude,
Yeah, I mean,
who
I
just
don't.
wants to be left alone with his
Right,
horse.
and I mean, and Yennefer is 300 plus, I think. So it's, you got a couple of no nonsense characters who, and that's always good for the screen, no matter what the media source, because it moves the plot along, and there's less shenanigans and more taking action, and that's always a good thing. And I mean, the future is bright for young Cirilla Siri. She is. I don't know how much I want to reveal, but she is.
Reveal nothing.
I reveal nothing. She is a. She is. This show will at some point
Yeah.
begin to revolve around her, and I'm quite excited to see how that unfolds. I hope it's good. There's a lot of. It's hard to move forward without covering all of the lore in that series, and there's a lot of it. So they I mean, I'm glad it's a series. There's more time to, like, things they have to acknowledge. We'll see how much of it they do cover and what they don't. I'm sure. I mean, I think it'll be okay. But
There's like this show, what like maybe just because of the source material and also like the fact that it's like a fantasy, is like, it obviously the most closest comparison is like it's supposed to be considered like a Game of Thrones successor in many ways, right? And like there's a lot of genre wise, it's like the Game of Thrones successor, right? Because I remember like Game of Thrones ended, and then like this genre wise, this is kind of like what the one out of all the different genre series that we're all pushing to fill that spot, this is the one that like stuck out and was the most successful, I think, since Game of Thrones has been gone. And like
what I like about it is that it's not always like characters do the right thing is a theme that you will see most protagonists follow. And at least in, I can't speak for the source material too much, unfortunately, but at least in the game, doing the right thing rarely brings the right outcome, however you perceive that. And that is a much more interesting position to put your characters in. And I hope they explore that, because I feel like there's just like doing the right thing always leads to the right outcome, and it doesn't. And I hope they explore that, because that's a much more interesting factor in, like, and adds to the character, that doing the right thing doesn't always bring the right outcome, and that just adds more depth. And I think that is a fascinating, and I hope more shows follow suit, to be honest.
Yeah, I would like to see a lot more of that. The trailer looked just like when it builded, it that's not a word. Is that a word? I don't know if I care. It built. It started off kind of just introducing you back into the characters, and then it kind of get like it was slow, and then it kind of got a little bit more quick paced. They had some quick cuts into scenes, and I like that, because they didn't really, what they cut into, you didn't get to see. So I'm like, I don't know what that was. I don't know what was happening. I know that character. Oh, that was Syria. Oh, that was, Geralt. I'm like, oh, and look, you at the very end, you get Yennefer, and like you see these characters, but they don't give away anything of what the story's going to be. They're basically just like, look, we've done more things, and I like that for personally. But like, I saw a lot of Syria. Is that her name?
Cirilla, or
Cirilla
Siri for short.
Oh, the girl Siri.
Yeah,
I can, if you
yeah,
got an
it's
apple,
good.
don't say this fucking,
It's
yeah.
it's spelled
But
differently. That
like I
helps.
can tell that she's getting more screen time, and that's exciting, and it looks great. It looks like they're going to build the show to like some kind of other epic thing, and like nice battles. It looked like there's some good action. Like what I liked about the first season is it was, yes, it had that kind of fantasy vibe as well, like the Game of Thrones, but it didn't, it both took itself seriously and didn't take itself seriously. Like it wasn't making fun of the source content in any way, shape, or form, but it seemed very, there was like a sense of levity to everything. It was very lighthearted when you got like the bard coming in and kind of lightening the tone. Like even just Geralt himself, when he would just be like blank stare at the camera and just like, fuck, like the timing, just it, yeah, exactly. Even me saying it was funny because
Yeah.
we all remember those moments, and but they're not like funny moments. There's some dry humors, they're kind of stuff like that, which I'm excited for. I like that show a lot, and I want more of it. I haven't gotten a ton of that in shows I've been watching, and I'm sad, and I miss it, and I want more. So just keep them coming. Keep it all coming.
I mean, the monster hunts are what I live for
Yeah.
in that show, and there's already one that's confirmed. I won't say what kind of monster is confirmed, but I want one more than one per season because I mean, the monster hunt in the last season was one of the best scenes in the whole first season, and it's
The one in the castle.
and
Yeah, that was cool.
it's unique. We don't see things like that very often. And there was just a lot of angles of how to like what's morally right and wrong, and it's good stuff. Bend the genres, take risks, do something different. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was one that I really wanted to talk about that I didn't put on my list that I just remembered. I mean, I have to say something about it, even if you guys aren't super into it. I'm really excited for the new Ghostbusters movie. I have been a fan since I was a child. It's one of my earliest movies and memories, so maybe it's just the nostalgia coming at me. I'm excited for this movie. I liked the remake they did with Jenny McCartney, whatever, and Kristen Wiig and everybody. I liked that one.
Oh, you mean the one with with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. I could
the gender bender one.
I could do with less improvisation in movies now. I want to get past the Judd Apatow way of making movies. I want to get back into comedies that have a story and funny moments, not lingering on a scene and letting them banter for 20 minutes and see what sticks. Like I'm past that. I enjoyed the overall story and plot. I think those women are some of the funniest and most talented comedic actresses that are going in movies today, so I loved it. But this one is a continuation of the first two movies, and that has me excited because I grew up with Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, oh my god, the late Harold Ramis, right, he was so good.
We used to see him around town.
Terrible, I can't remember Winston's name, and I've met him like twice at different conventions. I feel like an ass. Here's a funny story. Ernie Hudson, he is not credited on any of the DVD releases for 1 or 2 or any of the VHS releases. You will not see his name on the back, and it kind of makes me upset. But I listened to a podcast with him about making the original movie. I think he was talking with Michael Rosenbaum, Lex Luthor, Smallville, and they were talking about, it's an excellent podcast. If you haven't listened, Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, give me a shout out, Rosenbaum. Love you. Best Lex Luthor.
He modeled his look after you, didn't you? Can't you tell?
Right. I'm more John Cryer. I'm a little more John Cryer, Lex Luthor from the Supergirl show. But when they originally wrote the movie, Ernie's character, Winston Zeddemore, had a much bigger role, and it got relegated to something a lot smaller, and he kind of wasn't aware of it because he did film some other scenes, but once he did it, he was like, hey, look, it was what it was. I enjoyed doing the film. I liked it. I came back for the second one. I had a little bit more meat in there. I would have loved to have had the backstory a little bit more on Winston in there, but he got to play it, and he went on to play some amazing roles. I think, in my opinion, he was in.
Wasn't it supposed to be Eddie Murphy in the role initially? I think that's who they wanted, and that's why when he backed out, they reduced the role. I think. That's
maybe, you could be right. I'm not denying that. That's just what I heard was the other one, but That's sad, but I'm excited for this because you got his there. It's basically Harold Ramis's grandkids. Um, uh, uh, I don't remember the character's name because my brain doesn't want to work anymore. But
Egon.
thank you, Egon Spengler. He, you got his grandkids growing up in some podunk farm because they had to live there, and then they eventually find the Ecto One, and there's some entity living
There's
underneath.
something strange in the neighborhood.
Something strange.
And they talk to their science teacher, who happens to be Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, which was great. But
I mean,
it looks
Paul
like they're
Rudd's in
doing Zool again from the first one. I think you saw the dog come out of a building. You saw this crack open, and it looked like that woman who was wrapped in bubble wrap from the first one. But like, you get that. It gave me chills at the very end. You see the little. I think he had a pinky ring on, and he goes to pick up the phone, and he's like, "We're closed," and it's Dan Aykroyd, one of the more legendary comedic actors of our time. He's batshit crazy, but he's one of the legendary comedic actors and brilliant minds when it comes to writing comedy and pacing and timing.
I
and
used
setup.
to sing his song so hard because I always felt he was so underrated, and just hearing about how crazy he got about things is
he's just super into
sad.
aliens and believes in them hardcore. And you know what? Go for it, man. I think they exist too, but I'm not as like crystal skulls. That's the whole thing. I'm just show me a body. I don't care. So
show me potato salad.
Show me potato salad.
Left foot, right foot.
But
Takes
I'm
a bite
excited for the movie. I know that you guys aren't as into it quite as much as I am, and will you see it in theaters? Probably not. Will you wait for it on demand? Probably. But it looks cool.
How
it looks
many
fun.
remakes does it take for you to get jaded? This
Couple
many.
more.
I just come on. I don't know. Like
It's not a remake. It's a continuation.
Yeah,
it's a sequel.
Whatever, man. Like we'll see. Like I don't.
Low expectations.
I'm putting them real low. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Real
putting
low.
the real low. But I'm looking for nostalgia. That's all I'm looking for. I'm excited because there was some I hate.
Looks like Stranger
toys.
Things.
It does, doesn't it? Because they all dressed up as them. But the toy release spoiled it because I think we're gonna see Dan Aykroyd, Winston, Aaron Hudson, and Bill Murray all just get back into their costumes, and that's all I want, and that's all I care about. Anyway,
nostalgia, man. Nostalgia. Let's talk about nostalgia for a little bit.
Yeah, I remember.
And I remember nostalgia. I remember nostalgia wasn't something to be exploited by companies to like make people like buy movie tickets. I mean, it was just this thing that you had fond memories of.
Occasional and now little cameo.
Yeah, and now it's just like, oh yeah, that nostalgia. We're gonna like redo it. So you want to pay money to? I'm like I
Party
how do
on,
I have
dude.
negative feelings toward nostalgia? I'm
be
like,
excellent to each other.
Oh God, I'm not excited for anything that's like that anymore. Like
every rose
that's just
has its thorn.
Anything that's trying to cash in on our nostalgia now, like blatantly, just doesn't sit with me anymore. And I'm not excited for.
Okay, here's my question: is nostalgia? Like is there like a fair zone of cashing in on nostalgia? When does it become nostalgia,
Disney
and when is it just
the worst offense?
Disney remake is the worst because what I'm saying is like, is there a grace period, right? Because sometimes sequels and whatever have big gaps in it, right? But it's like, is Bad Boys 3 nostalgia, or is it just Bad Boys 3?
Yeah, kind of.
That's just Bad Boys 3 because it was.
That's just Bad Boys 3, or is it Bad Boys nostalgia?
Yeah, when it's like when they've eclipsed like 10 years or 20 years, like then you're just trying to cash in on nostalgia again.
Here's the thing I can say this because I've followed this a lot, is with this movie, they've been trying to make it for a very long time. They wanted a sequel. They wanted a third movie 20 years ago, when it would have been a little bit more acceptable to do this. And, Murray has been holding out because he doesn't want to be known necessarily for just the one character. I think at this point in his career, he doesn't need to worry about that at all. I don't think any of these actors need to worry about that, but it's nice because it's Ivan Reitman's kid. I don't remember his name, but it's his son, the original director's son, who helped write it with Harold Ramis, is taking over on this one. So it's not so much that it's, for me, yes, there's going to be nostalgia. Yes, they're going to play on that a little bit, but it really is truly a movie they wanted to make 15, 20, 30 years ago and continue on in the process. So I don't see it as like a complete cash grab from them. I see every Disney remake as a complete and honest cash grab. But this one, I know I followed the history.
Let me tell you about this movie called Rogue One.
Here we go. No, don't trigger me, man. I already did my
Dan's
Star Wars
frozen.
rant today with Tim. I don't want to.
Dan, your camera's frozen.
There we go. You're back.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Now you're.
We
back.
can move on from Ghostbusters. I just wanted to mention.
We can't go through a podcast without me mentioning Rogue One, dude.
Dude, if you want to trigger me, I'll start ranting about.
No. We already
Star
talked
Wars
about.
We're gonna
and
make
how awful the fans are. Let's go.
We're gonna make a little tracker mark and put it down in the corner, and it's gonna be a Rogue One tracker. So every time George mentions it, the ticker is gonna go up one. All right. So
now serving ticket number 5.
The last little bit that I want to go over is there's been a lot of happenings in the DCEU, and most of them were just. They're not making anything past Flash. I mean, they don't have plans that they've announced. So, but the big thing is Flash. That's what the whole hubbub is.
Kill it with fire.
Other than Pattinson's Batman, we
kill
can
it
get
with fire.
So,
kill it. Burn that whole thing down with fire.
I agree.
Just hard reboot that whole thing. Wash your hands of it. You like. I'm sorry. The studio already spoke so much about it when they decided to do like a Snyder cut. I'm sorry, like you told us as much that you thought the franchise was shit when you were like, well, let's milk this for all the money we can. Let's put out this director we fired version of the film that we were.
I think this is the catalyst for them to be able to reboot and do anything else that they want without having to wait 5 years to get the bitter taste out of their mouth. They can give us kind of a palate cleaner with the Flash movie, so they can kind of take. Hopefully, I am. In no way, shape, or form saying this is going to be the savior of the DCEU. The DCEU is a sinking ship and everyone should get off. But it looks, I'm intrigued. Okay, they are, in my opinion, the biggest, if we're talking like fan service and not just nostalgia, but trying to cash in on what we want. They're trying that harder than anybody, because there is no louder cry than a cry for Michael Keaton as Batman. There is no bigger of a cry. Like, give us back Michael Keaton. Give us Batman Beyond. They're like, well, we're not going to give you Batman Beyond, but we'll dangle a little Keaton in front
Why
of you.
not?
You like a little Michael? He did Beetlejuice. You remember that? Oh,
I want Batman Beyond.
I would like Batman Beyond.
Hey, Steve, you remember your multiplicity? Hey, Steve. I like pizza, Steve. So, Mr. Mom is back as Batman, and I've seen some set photos. I don't know if you guys have. They gave him some more hair where it stands up a little bit, very reminiscent of the old Bruce Wayne. In Batman Beyond, it's its own take on it, so it looks good. He was at one point on the fence about it, so because of like COVID and the pandemic and him wanting to make sure that he was safe when he was filming, because they're filming over in London, and London was not doing so great. And so you get to see what I'm that's nerd in me, that's exciting. What you get to see is also Sasha Calle, or Kai, I'm sorry that I can't say names. You get to see her as Supergirl, who's going to be the first Latino American Latinx as Supergirl, and the photos look amazing. They look fantastic. They really redid the suit. It's kind of reminiscent where you have the texture of Henry Cavill's suit, but it is its own kind of thing. It doesn't have like the red underwear over the top, and it doesn't have the cape on her, so it looks like they're probably going to do that digital. Kind of annoying to me. You don't need to do digital, just put a fucking cape on it. You've been doing capes for decades. There's no need to make it digital. And then you also kind of got to see the return of Batfleck on his little bat unicycle or cycle or whatever you want to call it.
Unicycle. Sorry, bat unicycle in my head. I like it. I want to see it now.
I am the knight. So it looks. I'm gonna see it. Am I saying that I'm like, it's gonna be amazing? No. Like, Ezra Miller was the best part of the Justice League, in my opinion, but Ray Fisher was the best part of the Snyder cut. So, you kind of like, what are we gonna get? Like, you've had two different versions of the Flash that we've seen. Obviously, they're not gonna give us Snyder cut Flash, which is a little different than the Justice League. He's less quippy and less kind of smart ass about everything. So like, who are we gonna get? Like, what is gonna happen with all of this? It's changed so many hands and directors, so many everything, and you finally got.
That means it's trash.
You got the guy, exactly. That's my fright. You got the guy who did It. He did It 1.
No one wants
2.
to have their name attached to this.
The first It movie was excellent. Like it as far as it was fantastic. The second one was the same as the second half of the original part. It's hard as shit to do that movie, the second part where they're all older. It just doesn't make as much sense. But the first It movie was fantastic, and this guy's done some other good movies. So is there some hope for this movie? Maybe. All right, De Niro down there with the
Yeah.
So
I got nipples, fucker.
Yeah,
want milk, please?
Yeah, I'm not.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Zero investment.
Lowered expectations. I just don't. I mean, can we just get the Flash to not run like he's jazzercising? That's kind of one of my main takeaways.
So that's the interesting part. The weird part was I agree. Visually, I'm not a fan, but where it comes from is speed skaters to get that kind of
but that means
using
his
your body
feet are
to whip
sliding
it
on the
forward.
ground, and that's not how that works.
Well, kind of. If you kind of look at it, he's not really getting.
So
all
he's
that
sliding
much
in the ground every
friction.
time he runs. Like, is that what's happening? Like, doesn't make any sense.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Look, change it up a little bit. Give us a regular run.
I do like Ezra Miller. I am a fan of the Flash. I've always liked the Flash. What he's capable of. I mean, Ezra Miller, I think, is legit. I think he's been legit. Thought we lost him after that controversy of that whatever the hell happened with that video.
I don't think that was actually him.
That was him.
Was
for
it?
Sure, yeah.
I just don't think there was context.
Well, there wasn't, but out of context, it looked bad.
Yeah,
in any case, so we're getting the movie, except this franchise is already dead. Like,
I don't understand what the point of introducing all these people in this.
What do we have to look forward to
Yeah.
if this is successful? The answer is nothing still. So,
Yeah.
Well, that's not true.
Why should I invest in it?
If this is successful, it's going to give us these alternate people that they can run with. You're going to get
successful,
Supergirl.
they're just going to string us along further before they realize they should have killed this thing like a few years ago.
I mean, I don't think they're going in the direction that they showed us in Justice League. Where it looks like he's going back in time to talk to.
I don't think there is a direction. Honestly, I think that there's the problem with the problem with DC is there's a lack of singular vision, right? And I guess say what you want about what's going on in Marvel and whatever, but like Kevin Feige has been there since day one. And he's been guiding the vision of like how it goes. He brought in smart people who knew what they were talking about with comics at different phases of the evolution of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it's been him at the front of the helm this whole time. You have your criticism, you could say what you want about his choices for movie releases and casting or whatever. But the fact that you had a strong singular vision and somebody who was at the head of studio who said, the buck stops here, I'm gonna dictate how this whole thing is gonna go out, and I'm gonna stick with this whole entire thing, is one of the most like fortunate things that happened with MCU. And unfortunately, DC, there's no one who wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
No, and it just got bought by AT&T and everything, and so they created this new sort of, I forgot what it's called. It's like Warner Network. It's not even. It's its own little entity within the arching brand of AT&T, Time Warner, whatever it may be. And someone went on record, and it was ridiculous that they were like, I kind of just want to like fire everybody involved with DCEU part of it. I was like, please do that. Like, just do that. Wait 2 years, then start things up again. Like, make us miss the movies. You keep shoving Batman down my fucking throat, I'm gonna shit a goddamn cowl. Like, I swear
it's the same problem they had with Spider-Man. I mean, that's what it is. Batman is like their version of Spider-Man. Like, it's the person that they like. It's like everyone has tried to take their shot at it. We talk about like what's his face, Ruffalo, when he first was given the part of freaking Banner. He said that's like King Lear. Everyone's taking a shot. Everyone's tried to play him, and it's like an incredibly difficult spot to fill. And that's the same thing with Batman. It's like it's everyone's tried to play Batman, and you could say the same thing even with Superman. And like Henry Cavill, his success to it compared to past Supermans and current Supermans. You know, you're like, he's better than most, but is he the best one? Questionable. Like, that's the problem with DC, is that it's like, we've seen so many different versions now and so many of those same characters that it's like, to cleanse the palette and to quote unquote clean the palette is going to take a lot. It's just, there's just so much baggage. As opposed to, I hate to say it, it's lucky. We're lucky that we've only seen one Iron Man, and we're lucky we've only seen one, you know, Thor, and one of most characters, with the exception of Spider-Man. We've only seen pretty much one of those characters, like, played IRL. So
we have seen 2 Nick Furies
we have seen one David Hasselhoff as well.
David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
No.
But that really wasn't like
no, it didn't count.
A Marvel film per se.
I mean, DC's they're screwed, man. And the funny thing is, was a time when these movies were coming out, the DC was beating Marvel in sales for comic books. They had all the good writers and all the stuff working on. I'm like, just
no singular vision, dude.
Stop blowing Jeff Johns and give someone else a fucking chance. And Johns was doing the Berlanti verse, and it turns out that Jeff Johns was brought on with was it Joss Whedon? And it turns out that Jeff Johns is like a fucking abuser too, and it's just like, dude, you suck. Like, you fucked up TV, you fucked up
I honestly,
movies, you fucked up some people's lives.
I don't think there's any reason for them to, like, the problem is like they try to copy Marvel. Like, they try to make this like ensemble unit. Like, you don't need to do that. Who cares, dude? You're DC. Like, just do your stuff. Like, they don't need to be connected. You don't need to give us a Justice League. Honestly, like, I don't really care. If the Justice League can happen and you happen to have a good ensemble of different people playing, like, and it felt a little bit more organic in many ways, the way that like Avengers felt, at least that first Avengers, like, yeah, you knew what it was setting up when you watched those Avengers films. But like DC, you just felt like, well, this is like forced. And maybe that's the problem, is like DC put out like a Justice League before they put out some of the other films for the characters that were in Justice League, right? Half of that, like, the only people who had a film before Justice League was Superman and Batman.
Added to the list of problems.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to like Avengers, at least you saw Thor had his own movie, Iron Man had 2 of his, Hulk had a movie, like, even though it was Ruffalo instead of Norton, like, all of them had their own movie.
Because it was Batman versus Superman. So Batman didn't have his own movie. Only one character had their own movie going into Justice.
Oh, okay, there you go. That's even worse. They only one character. Yeah. Only one character. So like, it was like, you try to, like, how good would Avengers have been if you put Avengers right after Iron Man 2?
Terrible.
You've been like, what the?
Like, who are these people?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they jumped the shark already, thinking they could steal the money of the like comic book and like superhero audience. And it's like the whole delivery was just terrible on that end. So it's just, might as well just kill a fire, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'll even see this Flash movie. I probably will if it comes when it comes out in video. But like,
I legitimately, and this, like, I know it sounds jaded and whatever. I know there's people who really truly love the source material and do some like it. I really did take the time to go back and watch like all the things from like Superman to like Batman versus Superman, and like from Cavill, that first Cavill Superman. I watched like both Wonder Womans. I watched Aquaman. I did like during this last COVID year, I did like a week where I watched all the films together, and it's just like, it's like, you're like, oh, it's just like, this is
it hurts.
It hurts. You're like, this is a jumbled mess of no coherency.
Did you guys watch the Snyderverse?
No, I didn't. I did not.
What do you mean? I'm not going to say I recommend it, but it's, I mean, just to see what he's
I don't really care to.
Yeah, but like, is it though?
I think it is.
I think it's just different.
I mean, I think there's more. I mean, it's 4 hours, so there's more character. There's more character development, and like actual like character motivations and why they do what they do, and it's nice as a fan of these characters to see that.
Yeah.
Ending still didn't really land for me personally, but that it didn't. There was just. It was a lot of little things were better. There was still for everything that was great. There still was something that bothered me, but it was better than for every one thing that was great. There were two things that bothered me with the Justice League, as you referred to it.
Justice League.
But like it was better. I mean, I gotta say, it didn't feel like a 4-hour movie to me. I was intrigued to see what happened, and I was invested the whole time. Is it still a good movie? It's so hard because I've never been in this position before where I have to re-rate a movie. Like it feels like it was a better movie. It feels like it was good. If I saw it without seeing the other one, I don't know what I would say because I'm in a weird position.
Yeah,
I haven't been in this position before. It's definitely better, and I think it's there. If you're a fan of like Cyborg, it's a pretty solid character piece on him and his relationship with his dad, and that's nice. It's nice to see him, have something like have character and like show why he is and why he's there. And anyway, yeah, I think it's better.
That's the problem with Snyder is it's still like it's nice, but even parts of those scenes don't make any fucking sense. It's just like, look, go do your independent movies, not independent, but go play with your own toys. And I like the movies that he gets to play with his own toys better.
I don't always. I mean,
I'm more intrigued.
There are more misses than hits, honestly.
And he's not amazing. I mean, Dawn of the Dead is probably his pinnacle in my opinion. It's one of his best movies. I enjoyed Army of the Dead. I thought that was pretty fun.
I did not.
It was entertaining. It was
another Netflix movie. Another Netflix movie. Every Netflix movie that comes out lately, I swear to God, I don't know what's happening over there. I'm kind of done.
There's good shows though.
Netflix shows.
Good shows. Yeah.
Netflix movies.
Oh, shout out to OBX season 2.
All right. So what? I've got nothing left to talk about. I want to do a new thing. Give me a couple recommendations. Everybody give a couple, like 2 recommendations of what you're watching, what you think people should go and see. That's something you saw recently that you like, that you really think it would be
what am I watching now?
Just like, what do you recommend? Give
I mean, I'm always going to say everyone should watch The Expanse.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I'm always going to say that. But also, if you like teen dramas like I do, like in the lore of like the OC or Gossip Girl, but even this is better than it. It's just like National Treasure / Fool's Gold with Matthew McConaughey meets like Dawson's Creek kind of. It's called The Outer Banks. It's on season 2 just came out Friday. But
is that an endorsement?
The Outer Banks. It's a great show. I love it. I don't know.
Did I hear a cash register? Did you just get paid?
I love it, dude. I wish I got paid by them. It's a good show. Netflix season 2 just came out, but the first season obviously is on there. I like it. It's like if you enjoy like just treasure hunting, this is a pretty good, like it's got a good mystery behind it. I think it just happens to be with like an ensemble teen cast, like but. In general, the story's pretty good, and actually, it's got a few famous people in it too, who you might have seen before. So,
okay.
What's her name? What's her name from True Blood? Tara's mom is in it. She plays the sheriff of the town.
I mean, I put True Blood out of my mind a long time ago.
The True Blood. She's also in the 100. The True Blood. Right.
Dan, what do you got? You got some recommendations for us?
I do.
What you got?
I mean, I saw a movie yesterday called The Green Knight, and I don't know if I can recommend it. I will say some of the
I heard about it.
Some of the best cinematography I've ever seen.
Is it Dev Patel? Is that?
Yes, and he's good. It is one of the strangest movies. I don't know if I can recommend it. It's very confusing.
It's like Arthurian Lord, right?
Yes, and it's a very Odyssey style type kind of adventure. It's a strange movie, very confusing.
The source book is supposed to be strange too. That's what I heard.
Clues to what's going on.
Just like The Witcher, you should be used to it.
No, much.
You're like, wait a minute, why is
Not
this
even-
person big now? How many
not
years
even
have gone by?
comparable. Honestly, it's
Oh,
like
okay.
you at least have a idea of what's happening in The Witcher. You don't really have an idea or why things happen. More importantly, that being said, it was a cool movie. That's not my recommendation. My recommendation is a movie called Midsummer, which neither of you will watch.
You told me.
It is so this director, he directed before this a movie called Hereditary with Toni Collette, one of, I think, the greatest actresses of all time, portraying just a tortured individual, or eventually tortured. It is probably my favorite horror movie ever made, certainly of the highest quality. And then he made this movie called Midsummer. There's nothing about it as traditional. It's not like you're going to see Hostel type stuff, but you are going to see some twisted things. As a movie, it's okay, but you will see things in this movie you have never seen anything like in your life, and you kind of stop and you go, wow, what am I seeing? And it is fascinating.
A lot of people have talked about it.
And
I've heard stories about it.
I can't get it out of my head. I will remember Midsummer, the experience watching it, for the rest of my life.
That's how I feel about The Cell.
God, that movie.
The Cell was twisted.
Warped my fragile little mind.
But not
warped my fragile little mind.
The Cell was just kind of, I didn't feel
just
like
it
was
was Requiem
for a reason. It was just like unnecessarily twisted.
Just like
Requiem just bummed me out. This movie,
I love Requiem. It's fucked up, man.
I will never ever watch Requiem for a Dream ever again. I
won't either.
I will undoubtedly watch Midsummer
Traumatized
because of all of this director is a master of hidden gems throughout the movie, of hiding things in plain sight, and that is something I look forward to revisiting. So
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a pretty big endorsement on that one. Man, I was scrolling through my phone to see what I was watching recently, and I'm not going to recommend this, but I'm going to talk about it for a second. But I do have a recommendation, but I'll start with the same thing. I'm not going to recommend this, but I've been watching Titans again.
Okay.
I fucking am impressed that they're getting a third season, because this was just it. I was like, yeah, I get to see Nightwing in the last fucking episode. Like, oh my god, it pissed me off. Anyway, so don't watch that. Damn it, now I forgot what my recommendation was going to be. My dog's in here now. The Boys. I recommend everybody go watch The Boys. I finished up season 2 recently. I know this is
really? It took you that long?
I stopped after one, and then I watched the first episode, and then I think I got dragged back into Doctor Who. But I mean, I've been watching. If
you like Amazon
shit, I've been watching Friends. I like some of the stuff they've been doing.
Invincible also. If you like Amazon
go watch
superhero.
Invincible. If you have not seen it,
it's pretty good.
That show is amazing. I loved it, and
it's so crazy that's animated, right? Because it's like,
yeah.
And then my nephew will see it, and I'll be like, "That's not for you." I was like, "That show is not for you, buddy. I know it's a cartoon, but it's not for you, buddy."
Go listen to Fat Man Beyond with Kirkman is on that show, talking about. Well,
I mean, it's got two of my.
Listen to his story about it.
It's got two of my
super interesting
favorite Avatar alums in it, J.K. Simmons and the guy who played Juan from Stranger Things. Stephen Yeun.
It was Stephen Yeun. But yeah, I mean, Boys for sure is a watcher. I'm always going to recommend Doctor Who. I'm going back through the Matt Smith stuff. I'm excited for the Peter Capaldi. I know not a lot of people were. I loved Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. I love Jodie Whittaker. So watch him.
She's done now. Did you hear that?
Yeah, she's doing her last season with an extra like 1 or 2 specials in the fall of next year. So, I mean, most people have gotten about 3 seasons. So she's gotten 3 seasons.
Too bad. I feel like the last 2 Doctors really haven't landed like the previous 2.
I mean, if you watch, Capaldi he did it. I think he did it very well for me, and I think it's mostly because of the writers. I think Chris Chibnall did not do a great job with Jodie Whittaker's overarching stories. I think she landed perfectly on her feet. She's a wonderful doctor, a wonderful actress. It's just the stories, like David Tennant and Matt Smith both had a big storyline in most of their seasons where it was like, this, what's this mystery, what's going to happen, why is tying it all together. Jodie didn't have that. She was handicapped going into it, where it's just a bunch of one-offs with very, very little connective tissue between everything. But all of that being said, this has been wonderful. We stayed on track, guys.
Not really. This was super long.
To the last one. It's long, but we stayed.
This was super long. I did not think it was going to go this long.
One thing.
I've been standing this whole time.
How proud of us are you? I don't know about you, but I thought it was excellent. More of these to come, everybody. We're gonna do more live ones. We're gonna maybe just record some and post them later. I'm gonna get my own channel. I have a Twitch channel. I know. Thank you, George, for hosting this one. So we're going to probably throw these on mine. I'll make a Modern Nerd one, and I'm gonna have a YouTube, and keep an eye out for all of those. You can find myself, Sir Slice 13, on most platforms, Instagram and Twitter.
It's 13 because he's a Taylor Swift fan,
right? You can find the Modern Nerd. Get the fuck out of here. I hate Taylor Swift. Entitled bitch. Anyway,
hey, she's like a big part of George's stream, dude.
I know, and you know what? That's fine.
We're gonna go into Thirsty for Taylor Thursday right now.
Anyone can like anybody, and I don't care. I'm not saying that she's bad at music. I just don't like her personally.
We're getting off topic. We're getting off topic. Say your goodbyes, all right?
The Modern Nerd on Instagram. Check it out, and on Facebook. George, throw your handles.
Agents are coming. Return to your exits.
Oh my God. Your handles. Where can we find you?
What do you mean your handles? I don't know. GJC327 everywhere.
Oh my God.
All
Promote
those.
Yourself. Jesus.
All those. YouTube, Insta, TikTok, OnlyFans. Yeah. So close. Snapchat, TikTok.
I'm gonna make Dan an OnlyDans, and it's just gonna be pictures of his luxurious hair.
It's just gonna be like this.
Dan, what's your handle? I'm making you get more active.
Instagram /Smatch City.
Smatch City.
All right. City.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming and listening. Thank you again for hosting, and I hope to do this again. I really like the format, and you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome, guys.
Appreciate it. Till next time.
Later.
We can